Hi, I'm Sean, one of the editors at Manx Radio. Now, whistleblowing is a word that hasn't been too far from the headlines during the current government administration. It's something one MHK is keen to see tackled. Arbory, Castletown and Malew MHK Tim Glover has put together a dossier on whistleblowing, and he's been telling me about it.
I got approached by a couple of people who were involved in the whole process, and they pointed out various weaknesses. And this came off the back of my resignation from infrastructure over the Dr. Rosalind Ranson case and the handling of that. So I spent that whole summer talking to whistleblowers and compiled a timeline. And what astonished me was the common themes that emerged, whichever part they were in, were so similar. And that to me shows weakness.
And those similarities as well, you drew similarities between what you saw and what a whistleblowing committee had seen a few years earlier. Were you surprised that there had been not more progress in that time?
Very much so, and those common themes that emerged were the person feeling ostracised from the moment of bringing a case forward, delays to the maximum to allow the process to run its maximum course, a feeling this was done to make them give up and accept a deal, a whistleblower's full evidence not being presented, only partially presented. There was a lack of understanding, it seems, amongst managers and senior staff about the whole whistleblowing process, a lack of transparency, openness and understanding, a lack of accountability where a problem was identified with another person named in the claim and they were often then moved elsewhere in the department to make the problem go away. And there was also a big distrust of the Office of Human Resources. Those were in that initial report and they just screamed out loud and loud in the number of cases, and I spoke to tens of people. It's alarming.
In terms of the emotions that the people that you've spoken to have gone through, what impact does this have on them?
Well, that was the other area. It has a profound effect on them. Some people have been involved in the process for many years now and still are involved in this, and they've had parts upheld as well, but the process still continues. So it has a big effect on morale for them, their worthiness in life. They want their reputation to be salvaged, and the others, of course, are financial. And I've seen it, and it's so hard to see. Huge health consequences, physical and mental.
You've included some quotes from some of the whistleblowers that you've spoken to. They use words like cruel, frightened, a disaster waiting to happen. How did it feel to hear words like that?
Particularly in the wake of what we'd gone through with the Rosalind Ranson case, very disturbing. And I've picked up the cudgel again this summer and spoken to a lot more, and I've updated the report, which I will put out there in the public domain. I've had to not get involved in cases, and I've had to be very specific in not going into details of some of the cases, because that would risk identifying one or more whistleblowers. So it is a timeline of the whole process, but also what I've managed to garner as general themes. And I only met two whistleblowers just the day before we did this interview in the afternoon. And again, it was just mirroring exactly what we've said. And quite frankly, there's some disturbing findings I've come across, which again, I can't detail because I risk identifying. But these are huge issues. And I really fear we will have another Dr. Rosalind Ranson case on our doorstep very soon, unless we start to address this really seriously. And some of the concerns that Mr. Robert Shaw, I've been listening to, is raised recently. Those should be an absolute clarion call to Tynwald members, because there is concern about the Attorney General's office and playing this out to the maximum. And those were points that were made in a number of tribunals just lately by the chair, Douglas Stewart. And that's really, really concerning that we're hearing that. But, of course, for it to get to the AGs, it's had to go through whichever area of government or semi-government areas there are. It's had to go through that process. And really, a good whistleblowing process should never have it going as far as going to a tribunal.
You talked there about some of the comments made recently by Douglas Stewart, the chair of the tribunal. Does there need to be, he pointed out essentially that there are an inequality of arms between government and a whistleblower when it reaches a tribunal stage. Does there need to be more support for whistleblowers?
Absolutely. And I think he spoke about the unevenness of the playing field, was the phrase that was used, and that nobody should be denied their right to have their day in court. Having gone through such a process, it really, really is hard. And he went on about the intimidatory nature of the process as well, and adding in a warning of costs as well. I mean, that is why, and you see in the whistleblowing report I've done, I've also asked, and I will get it updated to 2023, the number of non-disclosure agreements that have been signed and where within government those were made. A number of those, I'm sure, were whistleblowing cases. So the points that have been made in these recent tribunals and by Douglas Stewart, they are a major concern, and that should set alarm bells sounding very, very loudly across the whole of government.
They're quite unusual comments as well, to see comments of that strength from a chair of a tribunal. How alarming is that?
Hugely alarming, and again, it just backs up exactly the findings that I've uncovered talking to whistleblowers. Well, listening really to whistleblowers would be the better description. Delays to the maximum to allow the process to run its maximum course. That's going to be disheartening to anyone who's trying to right wrongs as they see it.
Now, government says they have made legislative changes in this administration. They say that they've defined protected disclosure in law and that this offers more protection. Do you think this does help, and does it go far enough?
I think it's too weak. I voted for it because it was better than nothing. And that's the only premise I voted for it on. But it does need strengthening. There needs to be, I think, right at the start of the process, more independence from the hotbed that's been created within a specific area of government. So I think that needs to be looked at. And the line that's being used now in a number of these tribunals by the AG's office is trying to term it as vexatious, abusive, disruptive, or otherwise unreasonable conduct. And again, in those rulings, it's stated such an allegation is now quite regularly advanced on behalf of respondents by the chambers of the Attorney General. Such an allegation is bound to be disturbing and would intimidate the typical complainant, especially if they are without legal representation. So I think there needs to be a wholesale look at all of this again, and a tightening of the process and a protecting of whistleblowers. Whistleblowers should be welcomed. They're pointing out weaknesses within areas of government, and they are, quite serious areas that they have to prove in the first place: wrongdoing, safety, etc. So they should be taken a lot more seriously and protected, looked after, and not have to go through this inordinate process that is ruinous to their health.
Now, you first put this dossier together nearly 2 years ago now. Are you surprised that there hasn't been more progress in that time?
I am, and I've circulated it to all Tynwald members, and I think from what they're hearing as well from Mr. Robert Shaw and also from reading the recent tribunal cases, which I'm glad to say have had good publicity from the media, This is a real wake-up call. A wake-up call to all Tynwald members that this situation the boil needs to be lanced here, because otherwise you will, mark my words, have another Rosalind Ranson case on your hands.
What's the blockage to the progress here then? It's as you've said, these aren't new issues being raised. Why hasn't there been more done?
I really don't know. I think there's a real fear of weaknesses within government being exposed, and at all costs that must never come out. I don't know what it is, but government should be, rather than trying to bury everything away, they should be welcoming whistleblowers and sorting it out at an early stage and making the improvements so that another whistleblower in that area doesn't come through. And that just doesn't seem to happen. They're ostracised right from word go.
You talked there about that ostracisation, if that's a word. A couple of your whistleblowers talked about in the whistleblowers you quote in your report talked about as soon as they raised the issue, they essentially felt their career was over. They felt sort of cast aside, essentially. How big an impact does that have when someone is thinking about coming forward, about the potential impact it could have on their career?
Doesn't that ring massive recollections of what happened to Dr. Rosalind Ranson and the office she was moved into as soon as concerns were raised? These are frightening parallels. And, of course, anyone doing that, they're trying to point out that things are wrong. And they're not expecting then to be wronged themselves. The process is just, it's appalling.
So what happens next from here? You've updated your dossier. You've said you're going to make it public. What more can be done to try and actually make this change?
Well, I'm going to keep pushing, and I know Julie Edge is another MHK who's been very much a voice for whistleblowers. I'm not going to be silenced on this. I'm going to keep digging away and trying to force change through. It just disturbs me that, several years on now from what wasn't government's finest hour, we're still coming across all the same sort of things.
I'm sure there might be some people as well who might be listening to this and thinking, well, I would like to come forward with some concerns, but I hear about this process, I hear about what whistleblowers go through, and I don't want to do it. What would be your message to someone who feels they can't speak out?
Please do reach out. A responsible, a caring and a transparent government should be welcoming whistleblowers to come forward, and it should never get to the stage that a number of these cases have got to. That should be a fundamental no. It should never go to tribunal. But we're seeing so many. Sad.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.